How's it going, everyone, and welcome to No Fun Allowed's guide series on Curse of Strahd, a 5th edition module. Today we're going to be continuing on with the Amber Temple. There's a lot to go into, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Players do not watch this, but DMs that want added insight, go ahead and stick around because we have a lot to cover. And here it is, the second floor. When your players march into the Amber Temple, they're not going to know what to expect unless for some reason you've given them some information. They're going to discover that this place is far grander in scope and scale than they could have possibly imagined. This place is freaking huge. And also they'll discover that once they make their way downstairs, that there is some really bad stuff going on. So let's go ahead and make our way going through every single one of these areas. So something important to remember. All the doors in the temple are fashioned from blocks of translucent amber with iron hinges and fittings, which means that you can somewhat see beyond, but not really too much. It's important to remember because, this is a very stark contrast to the grim gray darkness of the land of Barovia. There's a lot of reds and, that'll really be a stark contrast, especially because they made their way up here and they were trudging through the white snow. In Area 5C, we get our first taste of these doors here that lead beyond. When your players make their way through here, they can make their way opening this huge heavy door with a DC 25 strength check, which is an athletics check. The door has AC of 15 and 60 hit points, however. So if your players cannot pull this thing open, they can go ahead and just beat the thing down. You should go ahead and tell them that it is an option. However, if these doors are reduced to 0 HP, your players are beating the bejesus out of this thing, then unfortunately a 30-foot cube of necrotic energy explodes out. A creature in that area takes 4d10 necrotic damage, turning to dust if reduced to 0 HP. That's tremendous. If you have someone that's already been beaten up, then that would really suck to have a PC die just because you're trying to open up a door. So, once again, this leads into the lethality of your own games. Do you have it where PCs are dying regularly? If so, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and run it. But if you don't like killing your PCs off needlessly, then you can go ahead and just remove the whole 0 HP turn to dust thing. Or you go ahead and give a fair warning. You say you feel as if every single strike you take against this door, you feel necrotic energy seething out, and you can feel that it's swelling up. If that is good enough, then your players may understand that opening these things up with brute force could prove very deadly. In the area of 5D here, we get these amber reflections. You go ahead and say that they see these images, but the images don't mirror your movements. Instead, they wave their arms and scream silent warnings to you. The character's bizarre reflections are illusions meant to discourage them from exploring the temple. These illusions can be dispelled with a DC of 15. So this is pretty scary, honestly. Your players are making way through here. If they go ahead and go down the stairs immediately and don't get zapped by the Arcanoloth, then, this is going to be a very, very, big jump scare, right? Your players turn a corner, then all of a sudden they see, basically a wall of mirrors of themselves, but, it's bizarre and macabre. This area really lends itself to the foreshadowing of what's to come. There is illusions that are warning them against coming through here. But if they go through there, then yeah, they can theoretically get more powerful, but it is going to come at a cost. These dark powers do not play around. They are going to get what they want. And unfortunately, what they want is to mess up your day. In Area 31, we have the Central Catacombs. If your players make their way through here, then they'll be able to see the smell of the horrid perfume of the ancient dead. And as they walk around, all of a sudden, the lights are going to flicker on from all these candelabras. Pretty cool, really. Of course, if your players see magical candles, then they may think to themselves, oh, this is perfect, let's go ahead and take them. But of course, if you take anything from this place, they melt away and cannot be used later. There is nothing terribly exciting going on here, unfortunately. We get this huge area and it's filled with the niches of all these dead. But even if your players search around the entirety of the area, they are not going to find any sort of loot, no gear, no magical items, no nothing. Which is very sad because this is a very large area, it's very detailed out. And you should go ahead and say that there is something here. Mind you, it doesn't have to be a magical item or anything of that nature. It could be a bit of lore, it could be a bit of understanding. Maybe you go ahead and have some journals written out by some of the wizards that were entombed in here, and those journals can go ahead and tell a little bit about life in the Amber Temple, such as, they started here with a grand and noble cause, but over time, paranoia and dissension swelled amongst the ranks. Maybe go ahead and give some sort of foreshadowing in that regard. Nothing that would be pertinent to the campaign itself unless you wanted it to be. But, you could certainly have something interesting here. Of course, your players are going to note, though, as they search around, in Area 31B, this place is empty. They're probably going to be thinking to themselves, oh man, maybe there's a whole bunch of, undead that are floating around here. In Area 32, we have the Lower East Hall. When your players make their way through here, as they turn the corner, they can see that at the end of the hall, there is 3 ugly women in tattered black gowns with brooms and black pointed hats. They're obviously going to know that they're witches. So here's the thing. I love these Barovian witches. I think they're incredible. I think they're a ton of fun to use throughout the campaign. But when your players arrive here, they are absolutely no issue at all whatsoever. Barovian witches are only 3rd level casters. They've only got an AC of 10. They've only got HP of 16. So unless you really wanted to beef them up, they really just don't belong here. They're really weak. A single PC could go ahead and take out all of these women in a single blow, no issue. So do the Barovian witches really belong here? I mean, you can have them here, but maybe they wouldn't attack the party, especially if they were outnumbered. They'd probably recognize that the PCs are powerful enough. Maybe you go ahead and just say that the Barovian witches try and run away, or they fly up through somewhere. They do something. Because, just another combat here, what a waste of time, really. And now finally, here's where we get to the real big stuff, Area 33, the Amber Vaults. It is here where you're going to be divulging a lot of information, so let's go ahead and start diving into all of those. So the important thing to remember is that these doors are pretty freaking hard to open. They require a DC 25 strength check, athletics check, in order to open these things up. However, if you're not able to pull this thing open and you don't have the password, which you would only have the password if you were to, make friends with Exothanter, the only way to get through here is by beating down these doors. And once again, beating down these doors is a terribly scary deal. AC 15, 30 hit points. And if they are beaten up, then in a 30-foot cube around the door, any creature inside is going to take 4d10 points of necrotic damage, turning to dust and bones if they are reduced to 0 HP. Go ahead and do that to your own discretion. Obviously, if people figure this out, then maybe they are just going to go ahead and just attack from a distance. If they just go ahead and, shoot arrows or throw javelins or whatever. If you are doing that, then you should maybe definitely have some sort of, every single arrow you shoot breaks, or every single stone you use from a sling, shatters. Go ahead and do that to your own discretion. The first vault that we're going to be getting into is the Vault of Shalx. When you make your way inside here, unless otherwise moved around, there's going to be 3 flame skulls that are residing in here, which they could theoretically be somewhere else. They could have already been destroyed, or if your players are being accompanied by one of the people that could be accompanying them, such as Rahadin or Exothanter, then maybe the flame skulls don't go ahead and attack. Now that we're finally at these amber sarcophagi, let's go ahead and dive into all that information because there's a lot to go over. These amber sarcophagi are rough block of solid amber, 8 feet tall, 5 feet wide, 5 feet thick. These things are monstrously large and would be unable to be moved. These things theoretically would be weighing tons and tons. Trapped inside the block is a sliver or a wisp of utter darkness, no more than a few inches long. And that is that vestige that your players are going to be talking to or somewhat, interacting with. A creature that touches the amber sarcophagi forms a telepathic link with the vestige inside. The vestige offers the creature a dark gift. The creature must willingly accept the gift to gain its benefits. They cannot be coerced into it. They can't be charmed into it. They can't be held at gunpoint. They have to do it willingly under normal circumstances. And we'll be getting into all these individually, but needless to say, these gifts are pretty awesome. They all come with a pretty cool benefit. However, of course, they come with a terrible downside. A dark gift functions like a charm. A creature doesn't receive the dark gift after being manipulated or coerced, or if it declines the gift. Once it receives a dark gift, a creature can never receive that same dark gift again. The instant the dark gift is bestowed, that creature immediately undergoes a transformation, gaining that personality trait or flaw, which is a big deal. More often than not, these things are visible, so people are going to see them. However, some of them are not visible, so if you go ahead and take them, then there's a very good chance that, of course, the other people are looking around and saying, oh, what's going on? Well, I don't know, I'm not telling you. Each time a non-evil creature accepts a dark gift, it must make a DC 12 charisma saving throw. If the saving throw fails, the creature's alignment changes to evil. A character who turns evil becomes an NPC under the DM's control, although the DM can allow the player to continue playing this evil character. I'm typically not one for ripping away a character sheet in 5e. I think 5e is definitely a game about being an awesome hero. But needless to say, I do like the alignment here. Alignment is something that you don't typically see too often anymore in campaigns. I think that it can add a ton of fun. It can really inform what your PC is getting up to. But here's the thing. If you're not playing with alignment, then what are you going to do in this case? Are you going to go ahead and give them more personality traits that they need to adhere to? Or are you not going to try and manipulate their character sheet? That really comes down to your own personal preference and, of course, your players' preferences at the table. So another thing to consider is them making the charisma saving throw. If your players are being forced to make saving throws, then they're inevitably going to metagame it. They're going to know it in the back of their mind. They may not act on that metagaming, but they will know that there's something up. So me personally, once again, I would roll those dice behind the screen because, at least making sure that they're not going to act any differently than they already would. So now that we know how these dark vestiges work, let's go ahead and discuss actually giving them to the players. So starting off with this West Sarcophagus here in Area 33A, we get the power given to you by Queen of Pox's Fekri. Fekri's gift is the power of spreading disease. The dark gift allows the beneficiary to cast the contagion spell as an action. After it has been used 3 times, the dark gift vanishes. The beneficiary of this dark gift reeks of filth. So as soon as your player touches a sarcophagus, what do you go ahead and do? Me personally, I always take that person off to the side, whether that's if they're in person, I would go ahead and, take them off to the side, or I would go ahead and just slip them a message, whether that be a DM or a piece of paper or whatever, and I would go ahead and give them a vision. I would go ahead and say that you find yourself standing in amongst a crowd, and here in particular, as you're standing amongst the crowd, you raise your hand and you see contagion beginning to spread around. And as it does so, the contagion swirls and eats alive everything around you. And then after receiving this vision, they return back. And I always ask the question, do you accept this gift? If they say no, then they simply back off from the Amber Sarcophagi and they can go ahead and do as they please. But if they say yes, I accept this gift, then they fall to their knees as their new transformation takes hold. In this case, of course, they gain the ability to cast Contagion, which is a pretty awesome spell. But as soon as they stand up yet again from that kneeling position, then all of a sudden, everyone around them, including them, would understand what happened to their body. They now reek of filth, and there's nothing they can do about it. So, something we're going to be seeing a lot here is that some of these don't have an actual mechanical implication. I would say that there is mechanical implications to reeking of filth, though. Because if you reek of filth, then unfortunately you're not going to be too stealthy anymore, right? You could be hiding in the shadows, but if you are, trying to hide, someone will be able to smell you out, especially if they are, let's say a werewolf or whatever. And here's the other thing that we're going to be talking about too, is the mechanics of whatever gift you are given. So a lot of people don't like the concept of having these things for a limited time use, such as the contagion spell only being able to be used 3 times. What do? Do you tell your player that they can only use this thing 3 times and they accept this dark gift and, that's that? Or do you go ahead and change things up? Once again, this really comes down to the group of people that you have. Do they like to work with limited resources? If you tell them you only have 3 uses of the spell, then they're not going to be using those things willy-nilly. They're going to be holding on to them for dear life. They're going to be using them very infrequently, but I suspect what's going to end up happening is if you have all of these things only be used multiple times, then everyone's going to just save it up for the grand finale, in which case that'll be an explosive grand finale, but of course, it sucks taking these dark powers and not being able to use them as frequently as you may want, especially if they give you a really bad detriment. So do you tell your players that you can only use these things X number of times, or do you not tell them? If you don't tell them and then they just use it willy-nilly and then all of a sudden you say, okay, it stops, they're probably going to be pissed. They're probably going to be sort of annoyed. But, take that up with your group. Make sure that you run the sort of game that they would enjoy. Now going on to the South Sarcophagus here, you are given the gift of Zrin Hala. Zrin Hala's gift is creating lightning. So once again, go ahead and provide that awesome vision of them standing around and waving their hands and lightning shooting out all around them. That's pretty awesome. But here's the real kicker. If they accept this dark gift, one side of the beneficiary's face sags and loses all feeling. Essentially, they basically get a stroke, which, that certainly can be pretty powerful, but Make sure that you aren't just throwing this at anybody, though, because unfortunately, some people do suffer strokes, and if they have someone that they know that suffered a stroke, then this may be hitting a little too close to home. So go ahead and temper that to your own discretion. The East Sarcophagus contains Psychane, the Soul Hunger. Psychane's gift is raising the dead 3 times. Very huge, very, very powerful, especially for this campaign, because without this, the only other way they're coming back to life are through the dark powers or, of course, through the abbot. Here's a really cool thing, though. As soon as the dark gift is received, the beneficiary's eyes glow a sickly yellow until the gift vanishes. The beneficiary also gains the following flaw: if I help someone, I expect payment in return. So that's really cool. You get this ability to really help people out, but at the same time, as you are helping people, you expect payment in return. You know, that's kind of a dick move. You bring back someone to life, and then you're just sitting there saying, now you owe me. You know, that's definitely something that will add a lot of fun roleplay elements. In Area 33B, we have the Vault of Maverus. In the North Sarcophagus here, we have, you are given a dark power by Savnok the Inscrutable. Savnok's gift is to shield the mind. This dark gift gives you mind blank spell for a full year, which is pretty awesome. So if your player goes ahead and touches the thing, go ahead and describe that as they're standing there, they're being mentally assailed, but all of these mental assaults are being repelled away, absolutely no issue. I know for a fact a lot of people are going to like that one, especially if they've already dealt with some psychic damage. So this is a very powerful thing to get, and you're pretty much guaranteed to have it for the rest of the campaign, depending on if you have a relatively normal-sized campaign. However, the beneficiary's eyes melt away upon receiving the dark gift, leaving empty sockets that can still see. You know, that is pretty gnarly. If you don't have any eyes, then people are going to be looking at you funny. You know, you'll still be able to see just as normal, but if you don't have eyes, then that's kind of, you know, it's kind of weird. Do people look at you differently? Do people not trust you anymore? Do you have to cover yourself up when you head back into town? What does that actually entail? In the East Sarcophagus, we have Thangob, the Great Worm. Thangob's dark gift is the power of flight. The beneficiary of this dark gift grows skeletal wings and gains a flying speed of 50 feet. That is huge. Gaining just a flat out 50 speed of flight, you know, that's going to make you far faster than the average person, unless you're a monk, I guess. You know, everyone is going to be much slower than you are. That's going to allow you to do so many different things. That's going to allow you to move around the world like you normally can't, because normally flight is a resource. But if you accept this dark gift, then it's no longer a resource. You can go around the world and do whatever you want. You can be a scout, you can fly all the way up to Castle Ravenloft's heights, you can scale the mountains, you can do whatever. That is incredibly powerful. As the player touches the sarcophagus, go ahead and describe to them that they are now soaring high above the skies and are able to do whatever they want. But if they accept this dark gift, my oh my, does this suck. At dawn, if the creature has not eaten 1 pound of bones or grave dirt in the past 24 hours, it dies. Now, this is definitely something you need to tell your player, because if you don't tell them the flaw, then they're going to automatically die, right? That is huge. If they have to eat a whole pound of bones or dirt, that's kind of, you know, that's huge, right? They have to, 1, find these bones or grave dirt. 2, they got to carry them around. And 3, they probably got to make sure that no one sees them when they're eating it. How do they go about eating the bones? I can understand eating the dirt. You can go ahead, you know, get a little clumps of it, I guess, and start throwing it down your gullet. But eating bones, that's a pretty tough deal. You got to, you know, break those things up, and that sucks. In the South Sarcophagus, we have the dark gift of Shami Amorea. She is the Lady of Delights, and this gift gives you the power of persuasion. It allows you to cast the suggestion spell, and if you cast it upon someone, they have disadvantage on the save. After it's been used 3 times, the dark gift vanishes. So once again, you know, play that up to your own desires, however many times you use it. As you are explaining what they see in this vision, go ahead and show off that as they're talking to individuals, everyone seems to bow to their whim. Then they get this awesome suggestion spell, which is pretty powerful, because if people have disadvantage, that means they're way more likely to fail. However, the beneficiary of this dark gift gains an extra finger on each hand, as well as the following flaw: I can't get enough pleasure. I desire others to create beauty for me at all times. So you become the 6-fingered man, and you now become sort of creepy, because you desire others to create beauty for you at all times. So you're constantly trying to manipulate people into making things for you. You know, that's going to be pretty cool. It's going to have some fun roleplay elements. You know, if you're interacting with just the other players in the party, or if you're interacting with the other Barovians or even the villains in this campaign, getting that flaw in there will certainly add a lot to the social dynamics. In Area 33C, we have the Ghastly Vault. This place is a little bit cordoned off from the rest of the area, as you can only access it from Area 14. When your players arrive in here, they'll be able to see that there's a ton of ghast. And once again, this really highlights the level that your players are at. If they are lower level, then a whole bunch of ghast are very scary, as they are going to, you know, have all those attacks, and they're going to be smelly, and it's just not going to be for a fun time. Once your players deal with all the ghast in this area, then they can go ahead and start touching the sarcophagi. In the North Sarcophagi, we have the gift of Drizzlash, the nine-eyed spider. This one, it's no surprise here. When you go ahead and touch it, you gain the ability to walk on walls and ceilings. You know, that's pretty simple one for the vision. You just go ahead and show off that they're, you know, basically running around the walls and whatever. You know, pretty cool stuff. However, if you accept this dark gift, you gain an extra eye somewhere on your body. The eye is blind and ever open. This really comes down to how vindictive you are as a DM. Do they grow this third eye right in the middle of their forehead? Do they grow it on the palm of their hand? Does the eye, you know, appear on their toe? Wherever the case may be, it is a very tremendous deal. If this eye is easily hideable, then it's not a big deal. But if it's clearly visible, then they're going to have to do something about it. For the East Sarcophagi, we have the gift of Dalver Nar. Dalver Nar's gift is the gift of life. This is a pretty big one. This is, in fact, a tremendously large one. The beneficiary instantly reincarnates when it dies, as though it is the target of a reincarnate spell. A new body appears within 10 feet of the old one. After it's been used 3 times, the dark gift vanishes. The beneficiary of this dark gift, however, loses all of its teeth until it reincarnates for the 3rd and final time. That, you know, that's kind of a big one. You know, do you go ahead and tell your player that to talk like this all the time without any teeth? Do you enforce that? You know, that's a pretty scary one to have, right? You know, if you lose all your teeth, how are you gonna, you know, eat well? And what are you gonna do about, you know, smiling and all that? What are you gonna do? It's kind of a big one. But hey, if you die, guess what? You pop back to life. But coming back to life, you know, with the reincarnate spell, has its own set of issues. In the South Sarcophagi, we have Xantros, the Kingmaker. The dark gift gives you the great presence of force of personality. This dark gift increases your beneficiary's charisma by 4, up to a maximum of 22. That's huge. So, you know, with this one, pretty easy sell with the imagery. You just go ahead and say that they're just exuding this charisma all about, and they are able to just talk to anybody and get what they want, and that's a pretty big deal. If you're a class that cares about charisma, that's going to be a big deal. However, if you accept this dark gift, then unfortunately you gain the following flaw: I won't take no for an answer. That's a really bad one to have, and depending on how far your game goes in regards to the social aspect, you know, that'll be a pretty tremendous one. How do they interact with the other party members of the group? How are they going to interact with the villains that they interact with? What are they going to do? And, you know, what does taking no for an answer actually mean? How far are they willing to go? In Area 33D, we have the Breached Vault. So unlike all the other doors, this one is actually open. Once your players make their way inside, they'll be able to see that there are 4 Nothics in here. The Nothics, however, are not going to attack them. These Nothics were former wizards reduced to this evil state by the Mad Quest for the Forbidden Lore. These Nothics aren't going to attack. They are simply going to go ahead and probe the PC's minds. If your players are uncomfortable with that, then they can go ahead and attack them or whatever. But they aren't going to attack natively, so your players can just go ahead and scoot around them. In the West Sarcophagus, you interact with Delbon, the Star of Ice and Hate. Delbon's Dark Gift unleashes Deathly Cold. The Dark Gift allows the beneficiary to cast Cone of Cold as an action. Once it's used 3 times, it vanishes. Until it vanishes, the beneficiary also gains the benefits of a Ring of Warmth, which would feel very nice here because, you know, it's constantly cold and freezing down here. If they have the feeling of constantly being okay with the cold, then that's awesome. However, the beneficiary of this dark gift gains the following flaw: Fire terrifies me. Once again, you know, what does that actually mean mechanically? If Strahd learns that of someone having this flaw, then that's a huge deal. He might just go ahead and cast Fireball, and your player is going to be petrified and not want to do anything about it. You know, that certainly has some huge downsides. The North Sarcophagus here, very interesting one. The sarcophagus has been shattered in a way that suggests the vestige inside somehow broke free. You can go ahead and, keep that up to your own devices, but that would be pretty scary, seeing these dark gifts that are entombed in here and knowing that there's something that has been released. In the West Sarcophagus, we have the vestige inside Strahd, the Star of Secrets. When your players interact with this, they'll understand the gift of divination. They can cast scrying without the use of those material components. Very big deal. After it's been used 3 times, the dark gift vanishes. Once again, very easy sell here. Just go ahead and have the vision of you're able to see around and, see people from miles and miles away. The beneficiary's voice becomes a low whisper and its smile becomes cruel and evil. Pretty gnarly stuff. In Area 33E, we have the Vault of Harkotha. What's funny here is in the center of this room, there is a death Strahd that has cast invisibility and has a sword in hand and is getting ready to attack anyone who enters this room. It cannot leave the Amber Temple. This little death Strahd is just super pissed at life and he's going to go ahead and kill whoever he can. Now, if your players are already having a bad time of this place, they're getting beat to all living hells, and then they open up this door, then this could prove absolutely disastrous. They could get fireballed to death. They just go ahead and get great sworded willy-nilly. They have a terrible time with this thing. This thing can easily wipe out some beat up parties. And especially, they can beat up on lower parties. This guy is incredibly strong, 18 AC, 170 HP, and he can go ahead and turn invisible to make sure that he doesn't get in, harm's way, giving him an attack of opportunity with advantage if he turns invisible. That's something very tremendous. Tailor this to your party. Does this guy go all out and try and kill people, or is he not even here at all? Once your players have dealt with the Strahd, they can go ahead and start touching the sarcophagi. In the North Sarcophagi, we have Yurga, the Eye of Shadows. If your players accept this gift, then they will have the power of true seeing. That is huge. They get true sight out to a range of 60 feet. These benefits last for 30 days, after which the dark gift vanishes. So that vision, they're looking around and they can see the unseen. They can see all around. And actually, if they're able to accept this gift in the middle of the Death Strahd fight, that would actually be pretty strong because they'd be able to see the Strahd as it's turning invisible. And they'd be able to say, hey, it's right there. I can see it. That would actually be pretty cool. The eyes of this beneficiary become starry voids until the dark gift vanishes. The beneficiary of this dark gift also gains a incredibly terrible flaw. I believe that all life is pointless and look forward to death when it finally comes. You become a sad, depressing, emo person. In the West Sarcophagi, we have the dark gift of Great Tarhak, the 5-headed destroyer. That's giving me some like Godzilla vibes up in here. This is an incredibly powerful gift. You gain the benefit of a Belt of Fire Giant strength. That gives you a strength of 25. That is far beyond human expectations. 25 strength, absolutely ginormous. You become roided out. However, if you gain this, you only have it for 10 days, and you gain the following flaw. I like to bully others to make them feel weak and inferior. So some classes are absolutely going to love this. If you have those people that like to beat face with big swords, then absolutely, this is going to totally be awesome. And those people might be bullies already, so it might not even change that much. In the South Sarcophagi, we have the dark gift of Yogg, the Invincible. Yogg's gift is the increase of your max HP going up by 30. This benefit lasts for 10 days, after which the dark gift vanishes. Oily black fur now covers the beneficiary's face and body. So yeah, you get 30 whole more HP, which is a lot to work with. That is a lot of level ups just for free. However, you start to look creepy. You get this oily black fur. People are going to not take kindly to you. People are not going to like you. You're going to look like, a werewolf to them. So people in the towns are not going to take kindly to you. For that one in particular, I would just go ahead and say, for that vision that your vigor increases, it pretty much is like getting your constitution increased, except for the fact that you don't get any better saves. And 33F here, we have the Vault of Thangob. When your players arrive in here, they'll be able to look around and no jump scares, no surprises, no nothing. Just a empty little room. Once your players assess the situation and touch the west one, they will discover Norganus, the Finger of Oblivion. This is not just any ordinary finger of oblivion. This is a finger of death. You go ahead and point at someone and then they die and come back as a zombie. Pretty cool. You gain this awesome power to kill people. After it's been used 3 times, the dark gift vanishes. When it vanishes, the beneficiary must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or drop to 0 HP. The dark gift turns the beneficiary's blood pitch black and viscid, like tar. So this is a really big one. This really comes down to how much you explain to your players. Do you tell them everything that is going on with this? Do you tell them that, oh, you can only use this 3 times? Do you tell them that, oh, after that 3rd time, you have to make that Constitution saving throw or drop to 0 HP? If they do not know that, if they don't know that after the 3rd time, they're going to drop to 0 HP, that could be a big deal. If they're saving this for the big boss fight at the end with Strahd, then they cast it in that 3rd time. That means right there in the middle of the fight, they could have their full HP and then all of a sudden drop to 0 HP. That could be very scary. In the South Sarcophagi, we are given the gift of Vaughn, the Evasive. If you accept this dark gift, you are given the benefit of both the Amulet of Proof Detection and Location and a Ring of Evasion. These benefits last for 10 days, after which the dark gift vanishes. 2 really powerful items and incredibly strong for this campaign. And, you know, that's pretty great. All this at the low cost of the beneficiary of this dark gift becoming twitchy and nervous, and also gaining the following flaw: I can't give a straight answer to any question put to me. Very, very, you know, skittish, very understanding. That makes sense that they are evasive. They don't want to answer things straight up. And lastly here, for the East Sarcophagi, you gain the vestige of Seriok, the Hellhound Whisperer. If you accept this gift, you can summon 2 Hellhounds. As an action, you can go ahead and summon these 2 Hellhounds. Both hounds appear at the same time. The beneficiary can summon hounds only once, and the dark gift vanishes when they die. The beneficiary also gains the ability to speak and understand Infernal if they don't already know the language. The Hellhounds understand no other language, so of course that's the only way you can communicate with them. Sulfurous smoke issues from the beneficiary's pores whenever they speak in Infernal. So that's pretty cool. You know, it doesn't actually affect them at all. They don't change, they don't look any different. But when they're giving out commands to these Hellhounds that they summon forth, all of a sudden they look demonic. That's pretty creepy. And just like that, we are done with all of the Amber Sarcophagi that are in all of those extra rooms. There is just a few more left, and those are the really big ones. Those are the absolutely game-shattering ones. But we will be getting to those in the next video. So go ahead and tell me, how much detail are you putting into those visions that your players are going to accept from these dark gifts? Are you going to give them the full bit of information? Are you going to go ahead and change these? Are you going to give them infinite amount of uses of those dark gifts? Are you going to go ahead and say that they only get the 3 and that's that? Are you going to tell them the flaw that is going to come? These things are incredibly impactful. If they don't know the ramifications, they may be more willing to accept them. And I promise you, if they understand that they can only use these just a short few amount of times, then they may be far more reluctant to accept these dark gifts. Go ahead and tell me how you plan on doing that. I want to know. There is no one right way to do it. Everyone does it a little bit differently. Go ahead and tell me these things. I want to know. That is going to do it for me, though. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my amazing patrons up here. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so very much. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.